Hello everyone, very warm welcome to all of you to the legal game. This is Kushagra Goyal, your educator for the CLAT examination. So as promised to all of you that from today onward we will be starting a new sequence of things for our preparation of the current affairs. See now the examination is getting closer, हम exam के काफी करीब पहुंचते जा रहे हैं. So therefore it is important कि हमारी रोज की current affairs when you are watching the video it covers everything that you need to know for from that particular day, right? So इस वजह से I had promised you that from today onwards every time there is an international day on a particular day we are going to talk about it first thing in the newspaper analysis. So आज का दिन is the International Mountain Day. Okay, but before I talk about it, I once again want to remind all of you that if you are someone who is lazy enough to not take down notes while I am teaching, then you can get the notes that I will be talking about in the slides today at the link of bit.ly/kuslgk notes, or you can access them through my telegram channel that is Kushagra Goyal the legal game _Unacademy. दोनों चीजों का लिंक आपके डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में मेंशन्ड है, सो मेक श्योर दैट यू हैव दैट. ऑलराइट, सो ऑन दैट नोट अब बात करते हैं सबसे पहले आज के दिन के बारे में. टुडे इज इंटरनेशनल माउंटेन डे. ओके, एंड दिसंबर 11 की इस साल की थीम इज सस्टेनेबल माउंटेन टूरिज्म. Now that a lot of us do undertake treks, people are traveling to mountains, there is a lot more requirement of sustainability when we interact with mountains. Why are mountains so important? Mountains are important because they harbor 40% of the biodiversity that exists on Earth. Therefore, this year, that is 2021 की theme for International Mountain Day is Sustainable Mountain Tourism. UN has also started something that you can engage and interact with the overall events that United Nations organizes through hashtags. So if you are someone who has a Twitter account or has an Instagram, Facebook, anywhere, you can engage with everyone else on sustainable mountain tourism by using the hashtag Mountains Matter. Okay? Now, when we talk about mountain or day and dates, हर साल हमें पता है कि डे एंड डेट से 4 से 5 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चन आएंगे ही आएंगे. वी नो दैट दे विल हैव 4 to 5 मार्क्स ऑफ योर करंट अफेयर्स. देयरफॉर there is a likelihood of them being part of a larger area of questions. So why do we celebrate Mountain Day and how is it interrelated to sustainability? So we all know sustainability is something that we have in terms of our overall engagement for prevention of climate change or to mitigate climate change, right? And 2030 is the deadline for the Paris Agreement. Now, part of it is the Sustainable Development Goals or what is known as the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, जिनकी target है 2030, right? तो उसके हिसाब से the International Mountain Day falls under goal number 15 of Sustainable Development Goals, which is life on land. So we have talked about Sustainable Development Goals अलग से, इस वजह से ये भी important है कि हम उसके बारे में उसकी interrelation के बारे में भी बात करें. तो इस वजह से goal number 15 which is Sustainable Development Goals, life on land. Okay, International Mountain Day falls under that goal. उसके बाद what is the history of it? The history of International Mountain Day began with 2002 when United Nations celebrated 2002 year as the International Year of Mountains. Okay? And the first time this day was celebrated was in 2003. 2003 में इसको सबसे पहली बार celebrate किया गया था. ठीक है? So this is all that we need to know about International Mountain Day. सब माउंटेन्स की सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात एजेंडा 21 इन द फर्स्ट यूनाइटेड नेशंस फ्रेमवर्क कन्वेंशन के अंदर भी बात करी गई थी. बट देन एज वी आर ट्रैवलिंग मोर एंड मोर टू माउंटेन्स, स्पेशली नाउ विद कोविड रेस्ट्रिक्शंस, इट हैज बीन रियलाइज्ड दैट देयर इज अ नीड टू अवॉइड कैरिंग प्लास्टिक्स, टू हैव मोर सस्टेनेबल वे ऑफ टूरिज्म, दैट यू डू नॉट कैरी योर loudspeakers, woofers, all of that to the mountains because it disturbs the biodiversity there. So in that regard, sustainable mountain tourism is the theme of the year and International Mountain Day on December 11. ठीक है, तो इसके बाद अब बात करते हैं आज के न्यूज़पेपर की. Okay, so this is something for the first 5 to 6 minutes every day we will talk about. जिस दिन कोई important day होगा हम उसके बारे में बात करेंगे जरूर. ठीक है, then in with a lot of sadness, India bid farewell to its first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, a former head of the armed forces. He was the principal advisor to the defense minister in terms of all affairs related to all armed forces. In a tragic accident that happened on the 9th, we lost our first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, and this is the pictures of his funeral procession that was carried out to the Delhi cantonment area. You can see so many sad faces across the country who participated in giving tribute to a soldier who committed his life to service of the nation and has now left us. But we must remember the task that he had undertaken. Yesterday also we spoke about it. What was the major task that General Bipin Rawat had been working on? It was the task of reforms. Reforms had been at the heart of the efforts of General Bipin Rawat. In terms of that, what was the one major reform that he was working on? Theatricization of the Indian armed forces. That we should now not work in isolation. पहले क्या होता था? Armed forces had these different wings: Navy, Air Force, Army. And they had their own frontiers. Navy will fight on water, Air Force will fight in the air, Army will fight on the ground. But now we have entered the era of cyber warfare. As our National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, has stated, that we are now in a forever warfare on cyber level. And all the assets of all services are required at all points of time. And General Bipin Rawat had recognized the need of these reforms and therefore had talked about them specifically. Alright? So therefore in that regard, this was one major task that he had undertaken, which now needs to be carried forward. And the Indian government will be the one who will appoint the next Chief of Defence Staff, so we need to wait for that. Then moving on the right hand side is the news of the Prime Minister speaking at the Summit for Democracy. This is the Summit for Democracy headed by the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the State Office of United States Government. We talked about it yesterday. If you have not understood that, please make sure that you go back and watch the December 10 newspaper analysis. So Prime Minister Modi, while speaking yesterday, spoke about social media and cryptocurrency norms. He addressed the Summit for Democracy and he spoke that different countries, no one is perfect, but India has a historical base by being the largest democracy of the world. We have the largest population in terms of scale, and we are also the most democratic government on such a scale. So we are, by the world recognition, the largest democracy that exists. In that regard, he also spoke about world learning from each other of different democratic practices, and then he went on and stated that social media and cryptocurrencies, these are two things that go hand in hand and they need to empower democracies and not undermine them. That they are to be tools to address and extend democracy. So this is the case for the same. And what do we need to know? We need to know only one thing. Where did Prime Minister make the statement? Summit for Democracy. Who headed it? The United States government. Okay. Yesterday, Joe Biden spoke about it. We discussed the facts about it. There are three major themes: combating authoritarianism, corruption, and promoting human rights. Those are the three major target areas of the summit. And the Prime Minister was also speaking in the same light. Okay. Then we move on No, center says no proposal to scrap the sedition law. So in response in the parliament, the government has stated there is no consideration to scrap section 124A of the Indian Penal Code. This year also the section has been in use and misuse of the same because of the passing away of a veteran journalist Vinod Dua. Vinod Dua versus the Union of India was a famous case of that the judgment came out last year. This case was the one that the MP from Assam was talking about it. That Badruddin Ajmal, he had put up a question in relation to the judgment of Vinod Dua versus Union of India. Okay, this is the judgment which was referred to in the case, and should sedition be scrapped in relation to that. Okay, so this is the area that needs to be spoken about. Okay, then we move on. There is news on the right hand side. Assange can be extradited to US, rules UK court. So WikiLeaks founder, the one who has been doing the most sincere kind of investigative journalism, WikiLeaks, and their founder Julian Assange could now be tried for the criminal charges. Okay, now he can also appeal to the same, so therefore this is still a developing story and not a developed one. Okay, we will do a detailed analysis of this entire controversy. There are a lot of layers, and I will not try to explain them just one spectrum of it here. We need to know the story in totality. Okay, so we will be doing a special class about it today itself to understand every nuance related to this case. Okay, then we move on. So Haryana Chief Minister has stated that in open places, our namaz in open cannot be tolerated, and only it will happen at designated places. Okay, this is the controversy that has been happening in Haryana as of right now. Okay, there is one Supreme Court judgment which has claimed a statement that mosques are not essential to practice the or to worship to Allah. In that response, therefore, a namaz can be read anywhere. As per the Sharia law also, there is no need for someone to go to the mosque only. All it is mentioned is you have to pray or do the namaz for 5 times in a day, but you don't have to have mosque as the essential one. So in that response, there is now being controversy. Should it be allowed in public? Should it be happening in open spaces? All of this is political controversy. We don't have to bear anything about it. Then the Delhi University might come up with a common test. They have agreed to it. What will be the modalities for it? We will talk about it later. Okay. Then we move on. On the other national news, nothing of note as of here, more political news. So we come to the editorial section. The main editorial today, goods and services taxes as an unfinished agenda. Okay. Now there are certain facts about GST that we need to be very clear about. Okay. GST was brought in 2017 with the third level of amendment. What was this third level? Special majority in both houses. Houses of Parliament plus in addition to this, half state assembly approval. Okay, now this entire thing comes under Article 368 of our constitution. Okay. Now, why was this done? GST created a 5 common tax slabs in the country for indirect taxes. Okay. In that regard, this article is about the overall overview of GST, how has it worked, what has not worked, what has created conflicts. Okay. So सबसे पहली बात हमें जीएसटी के बारे में क्या पता होना चाहिए, how was it brought in the first place. Article 368, third level of amendment, which is special majority in both houses of parliament plus half state assemblies approval. Okay, that every state जैसे राजस्थान, मध्य प्रदेश, उत्तर प्रदेश, they need to pass resolutions in support of GST amendment, and then there could be some states जैसे इंडिया के अंदर अब 29 है, तो उस हिसाब से you have how many state assemblies will pass, half of them need to approve, 15 of them need to approve this. Okay, so then what is it being talked about? So GST is an idea that had been long in creation of Indian overall policy arrangement. Why was it important? Because to simplify tax rate. क्या होता था, हर स्टेट के अंदर अपने हिसाब से टैक्स रेट सेट थी. So let's say an item like milk is taxed 10% in Rajasthan and 12% in Madhya Pradesh. What this was doing is it was creating distortion in the economy. To curb this, it was brought in that we should have a simplified and uniform tax rate on indirect taxes. Okay, but इसके अंदर क्या था कि the central government forfeited only 28% of its taxes and the state governments gave up 51% of its tax shares. Okay, overall the power was taken away from states and more given to the union. Okay, to compensate for this, there was a creation of a GST compensation for 5 years. However, what has happened कि ये जो compensation है ये भी timely नहीं दिया जाता है, which has become one major problem with GST. The second problem is with this regard of GST right now as it exists, okay, is that the clearance and the status. A lot of businesses will tell you that the GST system is a lot more complex for compliance. Okay, for a successful GST, you require a lot more robust infrastructure and internet infrastructure because all of it has to be seamless. Okay, so India में क्या हुआ है अभी तक? GST has not led to enough reduction of tax rate when the idea of having uniform taxes is believed that it benefits the consumers. That is one thing. Second, it benefits the businessman. That when a businessman knows that his item will be taxed uniformly throughout the country, he will have incentive to promote or work around it. Okay, that thing has also not been done, or GST has failed on that front. Okay, so this is the second problem. Now there are different countries that have had GST at different point of time. Okay, and there are certain issues to be resolved. So what does India need to do? The editorial talks about that. See, one, we need to rationalize our revenue rates. Okay, so recently it has been proposed that instead of 5 slabs we should have only 3 slabs, and we should have a more easier conforming system for GST. But हमें क्या याद रखना है? हमें याद रखना है amendment procedure of GST and its effective tax rates. Okay, वो ही दो चीजें हमें याद रखने की हैं. Then we move on. Green shots. The government should build political consensus on plans for reform in the farm sector. Today on Saturday, that is December 11, also marks the end of 15-month-long farmer struggle against the repeal of farm laws and their other demands. So today onwards, the farmers will start vacating the borders outside Delhi, and they will start. This is a green shot in the sense that now, if the government is willing or sincere about agricultural reforms, as the Prime Minister had stated, then this is now a time to bridge gaps. That because of protests, a lot of distrust had happened. Now you need to bridge gaps. what they want, what you want, you need to now discuss, deliberate, and work around it. That would be the only way for sustainable development. There is no doubt that the farm sector does need reforms, in the sense that we have a huge reliance on wheat and rice as crops for revenue of the farmers. So crop diversification is a need of the hour. Plus, India is now facing a lot of water shortage. It is also facing a lot of problems in terms of nutrition that the Indians are consuming. So India needs to, and Indian farming needs to work on both the things. It needs to reduce its water intensivity, and it also needs to become more and more nutritional value, or add nutritional value to its food product. So those are the two things that now with this need to be worked around. Then second, captaincy unlimited. What has been the big news? The big news is that Virat Kohli has now been removed as the ODI captain of Indian cricket team, and we now have a two captain model, just like a lot of other countries. For test cricket we have Virat Kohli, and for white ball cricket we will have Rohit Sharma. So this transition of captaincy has happened. It has happened to an older person. So Rohit Sharma is a year older, but he has always been seen as the natural leader, if not Kohli. So that transition has now happened. The BCCI released this through a press note to the press without much fanfare. So now it needs to be seen. What was the big problem that India was facing under Virat Kohli? The problem was of not winning any ICC silverware or any international trophy. Under Kohli, India did reach the semi-final in 2019. They lost in the final of the Champions Trophy to Pakistan. Then they lost the final to New Zealand in Test Championship. Then we had a group stage loss at the T20 World Cup, which was the last nail in the coffin of the World Cup, or as the captaincy for Virat Kohli. So therefore there was seen as a need of change, and this is what has happened. Then the second article, make the mental well-being of teachers a priority. In terms of pandemic, the one community that has not been taken care of enough is the teachers. There was a lot of criticism of certain set of teachers that see they are not doing enough during the pandemic to keep learning alive. They are not, look at them, they are not working hard enough. Everyone else is working from home. Teachers are not doing it. So a lot of mental toll has taken place. A lot of teachers who were not equipped had to learn a lot more new techniques of learning. So all of that has happened. So in that regard, their mental well-being should also be taken as a consideration for moving ahead as we normalize the schooling structure once again. Okay. Then we move on. Caught in a zero COVID dilemma. This is the policy, or the zero COVID policy of China and its provinces, that we will have lockdowns every time there is a local case of COVID-19. This zero policy is something that has been criticized. China is the only large economy of the world that is still carrying on with a zero COVID policy. How likely are they be able to sustain it? That needs to be seen. Then the big news is UN confers observer status on Solar Alliance. The United Nations General Assembly accepted a resolution by majority to create or to make the International Solar Alliance a brainchild of India, along with France in 2015, to has a observer status. So United Nations General Assembly, India is a member to it, but there are certain organizations, groups who are observer, that they will become part of the deliberation. And because the future is renewable energy and solar energy is the future, thus this agenda. So what all do we need to know about the International Solar Alliance? So International Solar Alliance is an intergovernmental treaty-based organization with a global mandate to catalyze solar growth, reduce the cost of financing and technology. Okay. Also, ISA is the nodal agency for One Sun, One World, One Grid. Also WOG, however you want to pronounce the acronym. This is the one policy for which I have already done a separate video. Okay, this was launched by our Prime Minister along with Emmanuel Macron on 30th November 2015. Okay, the headquarters of the organization is in Gurugram, and the most recent member is United States. As of today, there are 101 countries out of 193 at United Nations as the members of ISA. Okay, so ISA has now also become a observer of the United Nations General Assembly. Okay, so this is the other big news that we need to keep in mind. You need to make sure you have these notes available with you, so make sure that you take them from the Google Drive. Then apart from this, in the function on Human Rights Day, President calls for debate on climate justice. What is climate justice? Climate justice is sustainable use of resources plus those who have benefited and caused climate change, they need to pay for the damage they have caused. Okay, this is what is the key consideration of the idea of climate justice. Common but differentiated responsibilities, CBDR. Common but differentiated responsibilities. Okay, this is the key principle of climate change, climate justice. ये बात कभी भी नहीं भूलनी है कि जिन्होंने historically ज़्यादा damage किया है, they will have to pay for it. Okay, that is the key idea of this. All right. Then we move on. More returnees from India post the Afghanistan fall to Taliban. On 15th August, Kabul was captured by Taliban, and since then no more evacuation had happened. India had not undertaken any more evacuation. Okay, post that, now this is the first evacuation of more Afghanistan minorities who want to come to India. India has not yet resumed its embassy offices there, but this was done through a chartered flight in cooperation with the Taliban government there. Okay, so this could be the steps towards normalization of relationship there. Okay, then we move on. Don't use state force on political opinion. It says journalists should not be made to suffer for reporting what is public. If, for example, a journalist reports something that is not good for a present government. In the case here, were cases filed against Op India magazine for the violence that was happening in West Bengal post the elections. Similarly, at Lakhimpur Kheri and different other news reports in Uttar Pradesh, journalists should not be signaled out and cases be filed against them for harassment. This, the court has stated, can create political class, should introspect on the debasement of dialogue that is taking place, and state forces that is filing UAP against journalists. Abhi recently in Tripura, Supreme Court had to quash cases against them. Then in Uttar Pradesh, Hathras gang rape, Lakhimpur Kheri violence, and similarly the farmers. One of the major demand of the farmers is the cases that have been filed against them while they have been protesting against the government. So in that regard, the court has stated that Article 19 of an Indian cannot be fully realized if state uses its power to undermine democracy. In a country which prides itself on diversity, there is bound to be different perceptions and opinions, which would include political opinions. This is the very essence of democracy. Okay, that we need to let the other party say, have their own beliefs and system. Okay, this is what the idea is. Then we move on to curb more the nutritional lapse, and as I pointed out in the main editorial also about green shorts, that India is suffering from high level of mild child nutrition or malnutrition. So to cover that, supplementary steps will now be immediately taken by the government. Plus a parliamentary committee which is to audit the policies of the government has brought in. The committee headed by Hina Vijaykumar Gavit, and the report is empowerment of women through education with special reference to Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. That 80% of the funds of the total of it, that is out of 446 crore, has just been gone into advertisements of the campaign and very little for actual work of women education or women healthcare. Out of 446, 80%, that is 400 crore almost, has been spent on what? On promotion, on advertisements. Ads to media organizations is also a way to create preference for your or the party in power. Okay, so this is what the parliamentary committee has flagged, that this kind of steps should not be done, and the policy funds were actually not for awareness but substantive work for women education and women protection against female feticide, healthcare facilities, all of that. While this has been merely spent on advertising. Okay, then we move on. Only 27% of the funds allotted for Ladakh use. So the panel has talked about one of the major reasons for Article 370 scrap and creation of two different union territories, bifurcating Jammu and Kashmir into Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, was development of Ladakh. But in that regard, only 27% of the funds allocated have been used. There was a demand for a separate university, there was demand for more local education, better facilities. In that regard, only 27% of the funds have been used in this time period. Okay, this is the reality. This is what the parliament is able to tell, that from all the big news that we keep hearing, we need to know how much work is happening on the ground. Then in awards, the important news is architect Bal Krishna Doshi winning the top honor, that is the Royal Gold Medal for 2022, which is world's highest honor for architects by the Royal Institute of British Architects. So this has been conferred on Bal Krishna Doshi. That is the news. Then we move on to international news. In international news, China claims it is the largest democracy in response to China not being invited to the Summit for Democracy. We all know how true that is. The Communist Party of the Chinese mainland is ruled by the Communist Party of China, which is a one-party state. Within one party, there is almost no democracy that exists. No dissent can happen against Xi Jinping. While, for example, in India, you can criticize the Prime Minister, the opposition parties is there. Then within the party also there can be criticism. Alright? For example, during the second wave of COVID-19, different MLAs had written letters criticizing the steps taken by their chief minister. So those things can happen in India, but can a party official in China write a criticism of Xi Jinping? No. So all of this is just political posturing, but nothing of note. Then we move on. Pakistan-Taliban call of ceasefire. So there could be hostilities happening between. While Pakistan is suffering from economic collapse, it is also in the middle of a civil war with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. This is a terrorist organization which had also carried out the horrendous school bombing that had happened in Pakistan. Then we move on. In other news is the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. So one big news on December 10 is always the Nobel Prizes. Okay, the Nobel Prize ceremony. So for the Peace Prize that happens in Oslo. Okay, this year's Nobel Peace Prize is for the first time given to journalists after 1935. 1935 के बाद पहली बार जर्नलिस्ट को नोबेल प्राइज मिला है. किसको मिला है इस बार का? मारिया रेसा ऑफ फिलीपींस and Dmitry Muratov of Russia. Why have they been given? So for Reza, she did a newspaper magazine known as Rapper or Rappler, and Dmitry Muratov has founded a newspaper known as Novaya Gazeta. Both these countries are ruled by autocrats, that is Vladimir Putin and President Duterte in Philippines. So this is a good time to revise all the Nobel Prizes. To tell you, I have already taken two special classes on Nobel Prize, one on their stats and the other on the 2021 Nobel Prize in detail, plus questions about them. The link to these classes is on your screen. I will also be pinning the links to these classes in the comment section of the video. Okay, so that you can, if you have not watched these classes or you are not aware of the history of Nobel Prize, क्या होते हैं Nobel Prize, क्यों मिलते हैं, all of that, how many Indians have won it, what were the categories in which Indians won it, what are the other statistics related to Nobel Prizes, please go back and watch these two special classes, okay? But we will look at the 2021 winners of the Nobel Prize. So in physics, we have three. The first is Yukoro Manabe, okay? He has been given for physical modeling of Earth's climate. This is the first time in Nobel Prize history that climate change scientists have been recognized with the Nobel Prize, okay? So Yukoro Manabe from the Princeton University of United States. Then the next one, Klaus Hasselmann for physics again. He is a awardee from the Hamburg Institute in Germany. Alright, again climate scientist. Then the third one, Giorgio Parisi from Rome, Italy, and Spezia University of Rome. That is his alma mater. Alma mater of a Nobel laureate is very, very important. Last year, ALET में भी आया था. When the Nobel Committee announces a prize, it gives out three things: the name of the person, the reason why they are being given. So, for example, for Giorgio Parisi, for discovery of interplay of disordered fluctuations in physical system from atomic planetary scales, and the university where they conducted this research or they are associated with is also announced. So three things. All right. Then the chemistry award has been given to Benjamin List of Frankfurt, Germany, and the Max Planck Institute in Germany for asymmetric organocatalysts, along with David W.C. Maximilian of UK from Princeton University in United States. Okay, then the medicine award this year has been given to David Julius of USA of University of California. Why has he been given? For receptors of temperature and touch. Every time, let's say you touch a hot surface, the thing that you feel or what tells your brain that this is hot, this is normal, this is moderate, you can hold it, alright, or someone has touched your hair, someone has touched your hair, or someone patted on your hand. All of those receptors, we came to know about it through the research done by David Julius and Ardem Patapotian, okay, who is from the Howard Hughes University of Medical Institute in United States, okay. He is from Lebanon. Remember the distinction. David Julius is from USA, Ardem Patapotian is from Lebanon, okay. Then the literature award this year has been given to Abdul Razak Gurnah from near Tanzania. Okay, while he has been given the award, is living in United Kingdom. His best known novel is also known as Paradise. Why has he been given? Because his literature has brought about the suffering of colonial citizens or citizens who have received at the hands of colonialism. So that is what his novels are all about. So Abdul Razak Gurnah. Okay, then the Peace Award to Maria Ressa of Philippines for her efforts to safeguard the freedom of expression. Okay, co-founded Rappler, earlier was with CNN. All right, and then Dmitry Andreevich Muratov. Okay, born in Russia and again for his efforts for freedom of speech and expression. The name of his newspaper is equally important, Novaya Gazeta in 1993. Dmitry Muratov stated that he has been given the award because 6 correspondents of his newspaper have been killed by the state of Russia for their work to criticize the government. that he has been given the award because the other 6 are now dead and cannot receive the award. This is the risk of that journalists face across the world. Okay, then the last prize of Nobel is awarded in physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, peace, and economics. Okay, the economics prize is known as Severid's Riksbank prize. Okay, it is awarded and sponsored by the Riksbank Bank. Okay, this year's award has been given to David Card of Canada from University of California in Berkeley. Okay, for his contributions to labor economics, and Joshua D. Angertz of USA from MIT in USA again for methodological contribution to analysis of causal relationships. So the award has been given in two parts, one for labor economics and the other for causal relationship, that is behavioral economics से related है, which has been given to Godio Imbens of the Netherlands and Stanford University. Country, university, name. Three very important things to be noted down. Okay, if you want to know more about this, please watch the 2 special classes of Nobel Prizes. Very important to be noted down. Okay, then we move on. On the economic side, fuel demand declined by 11.4%. This is despite the central government and different state governments actually reducing the excise duty. When fuel prices are going down or demand for fuel is going down despite prices going down, shows that there is a lot of hesitancy in the economy. Okay, Toyota deepened Japan output halt on scarcity. Apart from this, this was also the month where everyone sold the lowest number of cars in 7 years, which shows that all is not well with our economy. Growth not durable will peak in H1 of 2022. So that because of high inflation, an editorial that we talked about yesterday, that one talked about how we are not on sustainable development growth. Okay, so we need to do more to come up. All right, then apart from this, the World Chess Championship and Magnus Carlsen has retained his title for the 4th time. Okay, so Magnus Carlsen of Norway won the game yesterday, with which he has now become the world chess champion for the 4th time. He has defended it. He beat Vishwanathan Anand for his first title and since then has defended it 4 times successfully. Okay, so he has defended his title. First was in 2013, then once again against Vishwanathan Anand. Okay, and then has won the title after every 2 years, defeating other players. So 5-time world chess champion now, Magnus Carlsen of Norway. Okay, he's also very advent Premier League follower. He's one of the premier fantasy league players. A brilliant brain. The commentary for this year's World Chess Championship was done by Vishwanathan Anand. So that is also another fact. Okay, that a former chess champion of a world chess champion was commentating while the game was ongoing. The commentary involves telling what could be the possible moves that could undertake or happen. Okay, in the game. Then we move on. Apart from this, on the sporting side, more about the Formula 1 championship, nothing of note for us. And then dissecting what about India influence. Okay, so with this, we conclude the newspaper analysis for the day. What are the things that we need to note today? Okay, the first is Nobel Prizes. Please watch the Nobel Prize videos. Okay, if you have not watched them, please make sure that you revise them. Then the International Solar Alliance has become an observer of United Nations General Assembly. Okay, ISA. And the third thing was International Mountain Day that we talked about. Okay, which we celebrate today. So please make sure that you have taken your notes for this. If you have not, please go to the Google Drive link in the description box and download the notes from there today itself. On that note, I will conclude the newspaper analysis for the day. Okay, before I move on, once again, the links that I have given you for the Nobel Prize, you can watch them through Unacademy special classes. These are special classes that provide you with access for free of cost. You can access these classes by using my code KUSHGK. Okay, this in these classes, because these are live classes, but the one, and you can watch them n number of times. So for example, every time you want to revise Nobel Prizes, you can go to these links, watch this class all over again, do your revision, and download the notes from there itself. Okay, so this is the key. And if you're looking for dedicated preparation for your CLAT examination, I request that you subscribe to our plus courses. You can use my code KUSLGK for an additional 10% discount, and you will be eligible. You should take a subscription of at least 6 months for CLAT 2022, and for CLAT 2023 aspirants a 12-month subscription. Okay, you can use my code KUSLGK for an additional 10% discount. There are 2 new batches, plus you will get access to these weekly tests and Unacademy law aptitude test, which happens every Saturday. Okay, the batch for 2023 is Legal Source, which begins on 10th December, and Phoenix, which began on 8th December for CLAT 2022 aspirants. On that note, make sure that you like the video. If you like this format of discussing day and dates before and then doing the newspaper analysis, please give a thumbs up and put it in the comment section. On that note, thank you so much. If you are a new viewer of our channel, please subscribe to it so that you don't miss the updates. Thank you so much. See you all in the next one.